What is up? What is up, YouTube? How y'all doing? Yeah, check it out, man. Y'all might want to hit that subscribe button. Uncle Mike been doing some research, and we are putting out our own videos now. Hey, Diddy loses it in court after Cassie reveals everything on day 2 of the trial. Y'all want to check this out? Hit that subscribe button. Hit that bell, baby. Let's check this bad boy out.
It is day 2 of the Sean Diddy Combs federal trial. Combs' ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, she is one of Combs' many accusers, testifying as a central witness.
Is she ready?
Very ready and confident. Thank you.
Among other things, the singer is expected to address the 2016 video of Combs attacking her in a hotel when she was his girlfriend.
They used to crown him the mogul, the shot caller, the blueprint of hip-hop hustle. Diddy, the man who made legends, flipped parties into power moves, and turned Bad Boy into a brand. But yesterday, that whole legacy started to melt right there in front of the world. Cassie Ventura hit that witness stand like a storm with no warning. Calm, cold, controlled. And the moment she opened her mouth, the courtroom shifted. Reporters stopped scribbling. Folks in the gallery leaned in. Even the walls felt like they was listening. And Diddy, man went pale, like ghost level pale. The same dude who built $1 billion image off swagger and silence looked like he just saw a ghost from his past and couldn't unsee it. As Cassie spoke on what allegedly went down behind the velvet ropes, in the shadows of the mansions and jet rides, every mask started falling off. These weren't vague claims. Nah, she brought dates, details, and darkness to light. Even the courtroom vets, the ones who seen it all, were stuck, jaws clenched, brows tight. And the wildest part, Diddy couldn't hold it in, couldn't even play cool. The man who once orchestrated an empire couldn't control himself when the truth got mic'd up. That's when folks knew this wasn't just a testimony, it was an exposure. And trust, the story Cassie laid out, it was only the beginning. You already know who breaking it all down. Uncle Mike just pressing record.
When she walked in there, Rachel, she had on a brown dress, form-fitting, visibly pregnant, head held high, and did not make any eye contact with the defendant, with Sean Combs. She said that Sean Combs directed everything from what she had on, to the lighting in the room, to how she was supposed to interact with the person that she was having sex with. And again, just to reiterate what is a freak off, the freak off essentially was something that Cassie said she learned about through Sean Combs about a year into their relationship. He described it as voyeurism, wanting to watch her have sex with someone else. And she said that she did it because she was 22, 21, she was young, she didn't know any better, and that she wanted to please Sean Combs.
For decades, Diddy ain't just walked through the music biz. He marched through it like a general with no opposition. Bad Boy Records built that from the basement up, took street dreams and turned them into Forbes covers. He molded stars, dropped platinum albums, slid into fashion, flipped it into vodka, then turned it into cable deals and revolt. Diddy was the blueprint for how hip-hop hustlers could boss up in every lane. On paper, he the GOAT of moguls, the one who showed the whole game how to eat beyond the boot. But now, after what went down in court, that whole image got smoke around it. The man who had Wall Street, cosigns, red carpet love, and press run perfection, now being peeled back layer by layer, and what's under the suit don't look nothing like the shine we used to see. While the world praised him for being a visionary, Cassie was allegedly trapped in a whole different type of empire. Not one built on opportunity, but one built on control. While folks celebrated Diddy the boss, Cassie was reportedly living under rules, restrictions, and fear. In that courtroom yesterday, man, it was like a glitch in the Matrix. You had this image of Diddy, always suited and booted, smooth talking, deal making. But what Cassie described, that ain't no boss. That's a whole different character behind the velvet rope. This wasn't just about business now, this was about the power he held in private when no cameras were around. The same man we watch walk stages with swagger, now looking shook as his whole legacy gets dragged into the light. And if you're listening to these allegations, you start to wonder, how long was this mask on? And how many people knew but stayed silent? Because what was going down behind those penthouse doors wasn't part of no press release. And now the world finally starting to hear what Cassie's been holding in all these years.
At some point in time, she actually had said that she looked forward to the freak-offs. Why did Cassie express looking forward to these said freak-offs?
When the prosecution asked her, was there ever a time that you enjoyed the freak-offs? This is when Cassie got choked up and she said, I did, but only because I got to spend one-on-one time with Combs and I really did love him.
And that is speaking to the psychological abuse, in addition to the physical abuse that she potentially experienced.
Yeah, she's definitely laying out someone who was young, who was influenced by wanting to have this record career. She signed a 10-album deal with Bad Boy Entertainment led by Sean Combs, and basically describes being enamored by Sean Combs, loving him, not knowing about certain things sexually, and him sort of telling her, teaching her about that. And what you hear is someone that was young and she even said, you know, I was young, I was naive, I didn't know any better. But she's really telling the story of someone who thought she was going to be with someone in this music industry that was going to help her career, that cared about her, but quickly learned after the freak-offs that wasn't the case. And what I thought was also interesting is she said that after that first freak-off, she said she felt dirty. She didn't want to do it. And when she brought up the idea of having a conversation about the freak-offs in an email, which the jurors saw, she said she backpedaled in the email because Combs responded by saying, I know, you don't want to do it. And she said, oh no, well, it's not that. But that was the beginning. That was in 2010, where she brings up in an email that she wanted to have a conversation about this. And in her words, she didn't want to do it, but she felt like she had to do it.
Ventura telling jurors, quote, he would bash my head, knock me over, drag me, kick me, stomp me in the head when I was down. She also got into the nature of those so-called freak-offs, saying that they involved hiring an escort and they performed under the direction of Combs, saying that they happened so frequently it eventually became a job for her to set them up. Ventura said she did not feel she had much of a choice but to participate, that she feared that Combs would retaliate or potentially blackmail her if she did not. And she's had at times to take, she's taken deep breaths, pausing her testimony, Combs appearing to be listening pretty passively with his hands in his lap at the defense table there.
Here's the next part. Polish like court shoes on trial day. Let's go. When Cassie Ventura stepped to that mic and took the stand, you could hear the silence heavy like bass with no beat. The whole courtroom froze up like a scratched record. Everybody knew this day was coming, but what Cassie dropped, nobody was ready. Not the reporters, not the jury, not even Diddy's high-priced legal dream team. This wasn't no quick statement or surface-level speech. This was a slow burn. She built her story up piece by piece like a suspense film with no soundtrack, just raw truth. She started with the beginning. She met Diddy when she was only 19. 19, fam, fresh out the gate, young, starry-eyed, dreaming of a music career. Diddy? Already rich, already plugged into the industry like a mainframe. That power imbalance was wild, and according to Cassie, he knew it, and he used it. She painted the early days, how he allegedly always had to know where she was, who she was with, what time she stepped out the house. She said he'd just pop up if she was out, like a shadow she couldn't escape. Then it got deeper. She said if she didn't follow instructions, he'd shelf her music, sabotage her collabs, allegedly hit up producers behind her back and kill the track before it dropped. Then she dropped one of the coldest allegations. Cassie said Diddy installed tracking software on her phone. For real. She testified that he'd call her within minutes of pulling up somewhere, already knowing where she was at. That's next level control. She said he slowly isolated her from everyone who might have helped her escape. Friends faded, support disappeared, till it was just him left in her circle. Just him, and that's when it really got dark. The judge had to bang the gavel 3 separate times just to keep order. Diddy? He was unglued, head shakes, wild whispers to his lawyers, mugging like a man who felt that throne beneath him wobble. He'd fix his face for 5 minutes, then fall right back into it. This was a man who built a legacy never being told no. Now facing a courtroom that ain't here for the Showbiz Act. Then Cassie pulled the trigger. Figuratively, of course. She passed her phone to her attorney. Boom. Texts and emails lit up the courtroom screen like fireworks in the dark. And the look on Diddy's face, man was frozen like somebody just pressed pause on his whole life. Their messages hit different. Alleged apologies for things he said never happened, veiled threats about her career, cryptic admissions that didn't match the statements his publicist been feeding the press for years. This wasn't speculation. These were digital footprints from the past, receipts she'd been holding quietly, playing the long game. And that was just a warm-up. Then came the physical stuff. Cassie told it straight. No sugar, no spin. She described being slammed into walls during arguments. She detailed a scene where she says he pushed her down a flight of stairs in a Miami rental. But the one that hit the courtroom like a gut punch, the choking. Cassie said there were times he allegedly wrapped his hands around her neck till she started blacking out, only letting go once she went limp. At that point, the courtroom vibe changed completely. Jurors weren't just listening, they were feeling it. One older woman on the panel had tears in her eyes. Another juror, a dude, stopped looking Diddy in the face altogether. The courtroom wasn't just silent, it was haunted. The reporters, even the ones who'd covered the wildest cases, looked shook. And all of that was just the setup. Because what came next? The hotel footage everybody's been whispering about. That's the moment that turned this trial from a headline into history.
Cassie's relationship with Diddy. Some of those details we've seen in prior lawsuits, but to hear her on the stand actually giving those details, reliving those moments herself. Also, you have to remember, she's very pregnant right now. So I'm gonna be curious to see how long she makes it on the stand, how she's emotionally able to weather all of these questions. And what's going to be interesting to watch is, the defense from the very start in their opening statement said that she chose to be there. So I'm going to be curious to see how she responds to questions about, was this her choice or did she feel like she had to do all of these things?
I think what made Cassie emotional is having to describe the details of the freak-off and why she did it. When she talked about wanting to do it to please Sean Combs, that's when she broke down. Up until that point, she had just been answering the questions. She's a little soft-spoken at times, but that's when she got emotional. When she had to answer the question about if she enjoyed it, that's when she broke down, because she said, I enjoyed being with Sean Combs. And she says, I did it because it made him happy.
What did the expressions of the jurors look like?
The jurors are laser focused on what Cassie has to say. And that's to be expected, right? Because she is the person who will likely be on the stand, according to attorneys, for 2, maybe 3 days. She's the one that was in the relationship with Sean Combs for over 10 years. So she's got a lot to say, and she's just getting started.
Just how important is Cassie's testimony to the prosecution?
I think it really connects the dots, Rachel. When you look at that initial indictment and what's being alleged, she really is the person that has probably the most information about this idea that the prosecution says, which is creating a criminal enterprise for Sean Combs' sexual desires. Something else that the jurors saw today that sort of connects it back to this alleged criminal enterprise are 7 photos of people that were very close to Sean Combs, one even his former chief of staff. And these were all people that Cassie Ventura was able to name and explain the functions in terms of what they did: security, driver, chief of staff, someone that handled financials. So it's showing that she knew some of these people, again, because she was with him, around him for so long.
I thought I was going to die that night, Cassie said, voice low but steady, like she'd been holding that weight in her chest for years. And when she said it, the whole courtroom leaned in. Every head, every breath, every heartbeat was locked in on her. This wasn't a story the blogs had touched. This wasn't some recycled headline. This was raw. This was new. And this was deadly. She was talking about a night at the Four Seasons Hotel. A night so dark, it never made it to the streets. Never hit no tabloids, not even whispered in industry circles. This was buried deep. According to Cassie, she kept it hidden out of fear. Fear of Diddy. Fear of what he could do to her name, her career, her life. She said, when you're up against a giant like that, you learn to stay silent. But not today. That silence is over. She told the court it started like any industry after party. Smiles, champagne, music vibes. Then she said it flipped. Said Diddy saw her talking to another exec and that's all it took. Smile gone, grip tight on her arm, eyes wild. She claimed he leaned in, whispered threats with that public grin still on his face, playing the crowd while planting fear in her heart. But what shook everybody was what came next. She said he literally dragged her through the hotel lobby like a scene from a thriller flick while she cried, trying to pull away. Hotel security saw it, stepped up, but the second they realized it was Diddy, they backed off. Cassie told the court the guard didn't even ask her if she was okay, just asked him. And when Diddy said, "We good," the guard dipped, no questions, no concern. Then her lawyer pulled out the evidence. Pictures taken by Cassie herself the next morning. No filters, no glam, just pain, bruises on her arms, a busted lip, red marks on her neck like she'd been grabbed up hard. These weren't magazine-ready shots. These were bathroom mirror flicks. Slightly blurry, raw, real, and that made him hit harder. Diddy's legal squad jumped like they was on hot coals. Tried to block the photos. Claimed they weren't legit. Said they weren't submitted on time. Even tried to say they could have been from anything. But the judge wasn't having it. Overruled every objection. And once those pics went up on the screen, the vibe in the courtroom flipped. One woman on the jury covered her mouth. A couple of the men turned their heads. They couldn't even look. In the back, a juror was scribbling in her notebook, like her hand was running from a ghost. That was the moment. The moment everybody knew this was bigger than rumors, bigger than PR statements. Then Cassie hit him with even more. She said Diddy hurled a champagne bottle at her, missed her by inches, and it exploded against the wall. She said he trashed the hotel room in a rage, broke the lamp, flipped the table, even punched a hole through the bathroom door like he was in a movie scene. But the worst part, she claimed he locked her in that room for 2 straight days. No phone, no freedom. Told her if she called for help, it was over. Cassie said she had no choice but to stay quiet, survive, and hope he calmed down. When she finished, it was like time froze. Nobody blinked. All eyes turned toward Diddy. Every camera, every pen, every silent witness wanted to see what he'd do and what he did next. That's the image that's gonna stick with this trial forever. And trust, Uncle Mike was right there watching it all unfold, bringing y'all the real, not the remix. Stay locked in. This story's still just getting started.
I think what the defense is going to say is that this wasn't blackmail, this was not coercion, this was consensual. We know that Cassie started out with Sean Combs as an early person with someone who is trying to get her career started, and he was going to help her. That's what the defense is going to say, that she was starting out and wanted someone to support her. They did their first record deal together. That's something I think the defense is going to focus on, and had it not been for Sean Combs, she wouldn't be where she is right now. The prosecution obviously is saying he was in control. It may have started out as a consensual. It may have started out with her being excited about seeing him, but ultimately he took control of that relationship. He took control of her career. This is their key witness, and she's on that stand trying to explain all of the charges that the prosecution wants to hit home with that jury.
No, there was a moment early on when Cassie mentioned Dallas Austin, who she called a friend who's a producer. So I don't know if that's someone that we're going to hear from. We know that there were pictures shown to prospective jurors that are well-known celebrities, you know, Kanye West, Kid Cudi, Lauren London. We don't know, though, how they fit yet into why they were even asked, do you know these people? Are you familiar with them?
So the prosecution is questioning Cassie right now, still questioning her.
The defense hasn't even got a chance to, I mean, that might change based on the timing, but, you know, because she's such a key witness, it's likely that she will be on that stand the rest of the day.
What kind of witness is Cassie coming off as to the jurors?
I think naturally when you look at her visually, people see that she's pregnant and looking like she's due any day now. So they might, have empathy, sympathy for her in that way, but we don't really know. We know that they've been instructed to be fair and impartial. As to what type of witness she's coming off as, she's describing someone that she was, someone she said that was trying to figure out who she was at that time and who she was allowed to be. Now you're looking at somebody that's almost 40 years old, totally different person, but even in describing what was going on at her at that time, taking drugs, trying to please Sean Combs, she's really just sort of laying out the case for her not having a lot of control. So I think that's the takeaway. This is someone who is making it very clear that at that particular time in her life, she says she did not have any control really over what she wore, what she did, who she was having sex with. She's a different person now. But I think when she talks about those details and even reflecting on them for herself, as we saw today, she broke down in that courtroom.
Ain't nobody in that courtroom ever gonna forget the moment Diddy crumbled. Not just cracked, but shattered like a champagne glass on concrete. The man who ran the game for decades, Mr. Bad Boy for life, smooth-talking, mogul-made, red carpet king, turned into a storm with no control, right in front of the whole world. You gotta understand, this is the same dude who built his whole identity on never breaking a sweat. Always unbothered, always in charge, always smiling through chaos. But as Cassie's voice cut deeper with each word, all that polish started peeling off like cheap paint. Court reporters who've seen everything from Hollywood royalty to fallen kings said they never saw a switch up like this. He didn't just lose composure, he lost the room. 1 minute, he was that powerful exec. The next, he was slouched, sinking in his seat like the walls were closing in. And they kind of were. Word is, Diddy's main lawyer was trying everything, hand on the arm, calming whispers, even passing him a note that said, "Stay calm," in bold caps. But Diddy wasn't built for this kind of pressure. Not this kind. When Cassie brought up that Hampton House incident, Diddy slapped his palm down on that defense table so hard, it echoed like a gunshot. The judge ain't even blinked. She looked him dead in the eye and said, "Mr. Combs, if you can't control yourself, I will have you removed." He came close, y'all, real close. All the while, he kept shaking his head, mouthing, "That's not true," every time she laid out a new horror. But the jury, they saw everything. The rage, the deflection, the denial. It was like Diddy forgot this ain't a press junket. And there's no DJ booth to duck behind. The shift was wild. From Cassie being the one always controlled, to her owning that courtroom. She had the mic now, and this time, he couldn't shut it off. He couldn't rewrite the narrative, couldn't drop a remix, couldn't spin it to his favor, but the real twist, that came when Cassie said Diddy allegedly threatened her family. That if she ever told the truth, there'd be consequences. Then she dropped a nuke. Recordings, audio of him making those threats. Her lawyer hit play. That's when Diddy snapped. He jumped up, pointed at her and shouted, "You know that's not how it happened." His legal team scrambled, grabbing at him, trying to calm him down. But the storm had landed. Took 3 attorneys to sit him back down while the recording still played. Judge slammed the gavel and called recess, but the courtroom damage? Already done. Everybody saw it. The jury, reporters, officials. The man who once felt untouchable had touched the edge, and it showed. Then came the real dagger. Cassie had receipts. Evidence nobody expected, not even Diddy. She'd been stacking text messages, emails, screenshots, all backed up off the grid, out of reach from Diddy's crew. And she wasn't bluffing. She told the court she had texts from other celebrities, people from Diddy's inner circle who saw it, who said something, who were concerned. These were platinum artists, iconic producers, people y'all see on stages at award shows and on magazine covers with Diddy. And they had texted Cassie saying, "That ain't right, and call me if you need help." Court transcripts named a major rapper, a pop superstar, and a veteran producer who had all witnessed moments they couldn't forget. Diddy's whole "no one saw anything" narrative torched. And then came his own words, Diddy's own text, up on the courtroom screens. "I'm sorry about last night. You know how I get when I drink. New car, new apartment, whatever you need, just don't talk." Another message? Straight up hush money language. $2 million, clean break, my lawyer will draw it up. You keep quiet about the past 5 years. As those texts were read out loud, the gallery got quiet. Like funeral quiet. People who came with Diddy that morning, his entourage, his supporters, they started slipping out one by one, heads down, silent exits. By the time that testimony wrapped, Diddy was sitting alone with his lawyers. Alone. All that fanfare, all that power evaporated. He walked in looking like a mogul. He walked out looking like a man whose empire had just been hit with a wrecking ball. And Cassie, she didn't just speak. She spoke life into a truth that had been buried too long. What she dropped wasn't just testimony, it was legacy shattering. Because this ain't just about one relationship. This is a domino push that might take out a whole section of the music industry. Uncle Mike told y'all from the jump, when the truth starts talking, even the biggest moguls gotta listen. Now the world's watching Diddy, not as the icon, not as the boss, but as the man who might lose it all behind the mic he once controlled. And we just getting started. Stay tuned. Uncle Mike bringing the next chapter soon.